In this episode of 119, we have Lexis, who shares how she is a mother of two, a real estate broker, and a stand-up comedian for over a decade. Before I get to the episode where she shares her journey, I wanted to share with you that Life's Checkmark podcast has been over 100 plus episodes and has been around for 2 years now, and we're still going strong. So I want to say thank you to those of you that are listening, watching, and subscribing. Leave the reviews and sharing it with other people you know that would find other people's journeys to help others along the way. With that being said, now that it's been 2 years for Life's Checkmark, I have created a live event where we're going to have several speakers talking about coming on board and starting a podcast of their own. And if you already have a podcast and you're in the New York area, then you can come and collaborate with other podcasters like myself and other people that are speaking. I will have more information on this later on in the week. Plus, you start seeing stuff being posted all over social media. So if you have any interest in this, you can reach out to me. You have my Facebook. If you know me, you have my Facebook information. You have my email address. You can also just comment in anywhere I leave social media. And we'll start with that. I have everything in the background getting worked on where we're going to have everybody that wants to attend to be able to register. And I'll have more information on that. With that being said, I'm going to also shoot out like an episode from the past that has not been on YouTube. So you'll be able to watch that and have that. It's already been recorded with audio and posted on the podcast, just not on YouTube. And also, I have some exciting news where Podcasters Hub is a community for podcasters that have 10 plus episodes already. Or if they're part of my coaching program, they automatically get entered into the Podcasters Hub where they can explore and talk to other podcasters and we can collaborate and do all sorts of things. So that's starting this Wednesday. And if you have any thoughts of joining that, again, feel free to reach out to me. That one you can also find at lifescheckmark.com. And I'll leave that link in the show notes. And then you can go ahead and select Podcasters Hub. And you can feel free to reach out to me with any questions you have. So enjoy this episode. Share it with somebody that you know that is going to enjoy it and learn from experience of how this mother, Lexis of two, is doing real estate. And she's also a stand-up comedian. Thank you. Hey, Lexis, it's great to have you with me today. We were just discussing how it's been a while, and thankfully our schedules connected in line so we can come together. I am grateful to have met you through like a podcasting community, reached out with through an email. So that's how we connected. And I'm just curious if you could just share with everybody else so far as who you are today, and we can go back and forth and figure out how you got to where you are today. What makes you for who you are?
Yeah. Well, first of all, thanks for having me. I'm super excited to be here. So who am I today? Well, first off, I'm a mom. I'm an independent mom of two, got a 2-year-old and a 14-year-old. I'm a real estate broker and I'm also a stand-up comedian.
Nice. Yeah. So what part of your journey led you into I don't know if you want to go into the broker area first or into,
Sure. I probably start with comedy started before real estate. I got into comedy through my journey with what I wanted to do after I graduated the U of O. I went to the University of Oregon. My goal was to get into, I really wanted to do on-camera work, but then I really started liking production and editing and doing photography and things like that. So I moved to LA to pursue those dreams. And through that, I got sucked into doing an improv class at the Upright Citizens Brigade. And I started doing like some sketch writing. And then after like a year of doing that, one of my friends was like, "Oh, you should do stand-up comedy." And I was like, I don't think I'd be very good at it. And I did it and I did well and I liked it and I got the itch and I just never stopped. And I had been doing like sales positions, all ever since college just to survive. And then, after becoming a young mom, I got into sales because that was the one way I could make a lot of money. And after I relocated to Arizona, I started getting into real estate and started kind of juggling the two. Back then in like 2019, I would say was when I really started dabbling in both pretty hardcore.
Yeah. Is there something you enjoy the most about being a comedian?
Um, I think for me, it's just really making people laugh and having people come together through shared experiences and also shared painful experiences and really being able to kind of laugh at things that maybe that we did when we were upset or just unfortunate situations, being able to kind of like laugh at it and realize that we survived and we're stronger because of it.
Yeah. I would imagine you create your own jokes, right?
Yeah. No, I still everybody else.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, how does that work? Do you sit down and you work on it like for months? Is it the same stuff over and over again? Or, I'm just curious.
Yeah, I mean, most comedians like coming on my 12th year now. I always want to say 13 because I started doing improv first, but my 12th year of stand up and a lot of jokes I am still doing from when I first started, but they've evolved, right? Like they've gotten better or I've added more to it. Sometimes I'll do writing exercises to try to come up with a new material, but sometimes it's just things that based off real life experiences thinking about something funny that happened and then taking it a little bit further like well what if this happened instead and kind of twisting the truth a little bit to embellish it make it a little bit funnier. I Comedy is really all about taking the audience kind of like on a ride on a journey and leading their thought process to things that make sense and that creates the laughter.
Yeah. So you're sharing your journey in a sense up
Yeah.
on stage with jokes somehow, So,
Yeah.
yeah. That's a good way to put it. I think, and you can see that with all these clips and everything, and people, you're watching comedy shows. They do basically share their story, and if it's not that, they're making fun of somebody else in the audience. I guess with their story, right? Like, you too. You pick people out, or
Yeah, crowd work is something that I've been trying to work more on in my career. I'm usually pretty good conversationalist, but something about when you're doing it on stage, on the spot, there's kind of like this pressure, like you have to say something that's funny to rebuttal to whatever the audience member said. But it's really just about kind of carrying that conversation. Eventually, something funny is going to come up. So I'm trying to get more comfortable with that, not trying to feel so pressured to come up with something funny and just kind of let it happen naturally, like we do in conversation already.
you feel like you have to be quick about it.
Sometimes, yeah, I can be very quick-witted sometimes, then sometimes it's like blank. It's there there are times where the creative downloads are just like coming in flooding, and then there are days where I'm just like dry and I feel like I can't write anything new. So it's important as a comedian to always kind of be observant about your surroundings and watching people, watching situations. One of my friends believes that all comedians are autistic to an extent because we have to be so like paying attention to everything that's going on and the observations that we make and being able to translate that into something humoristic, I guess that puts us on the spectrum.
So, what part of your journey do you share with other people when you're up there on stage?
Usually kind of what is currently going on in my life or things that are relatable based off like the audience. I talk about challenges like being single, dating. That's kind of like a very relatable topic. Challenges with being a mom, being a parent. I talk about my family, funny things that my family does. I like to research a lot of current events and kind of stay on top. Like being starting comedy in LA, pop culture is kind of a huge thing, and so I like to kind of stay on top of what's happening in like celebrities' lives and what's going on in the news and trying to make light of that because just about everyone is pretty up to speed with current events, so it's something that you can relate to with the audience on fairly easily.
Do you enjoy digging into like current events? Is that something that you like to find?
Yeah, I mean, like I try to challenge myself if I can every day, but when I'm, our weekly basis, just kind of scrolling through the news feeds and like seeing what's happening, Me personally, I don't like to dive into like the news and politics too much because for the sake of my mental health. I think I think part of the reason why our nation is struggling with depression and anxiety so much is because we are consuming too much information through the internet and our phones, and our brains are not really adapt to take in all that information. We're not supposed to be concerned about what's happening across the world. We're supposed to be concerned about what's happening in our community and what's in arm's reach. So it becomes a lot. So I try to give myself grace and not and not press myself to know too much about what's happening in the current events, but just try to find things that are relevant and that happening within the last like month or last 6 months.
So how often do you go on stage? Once a month or?
No, I am going on stage on a weekly basis. My goal is to get on stage at least 5 times a week. If I have opportunities to get on stage twice in a night, that's even better. It's challenging for me as a mom and also being a real estate broker and juggling all those things. But because I do host a lot of my own events, I'm able to get up on stage at least once a week, and then I try to go to open mics and book other gigs as well. So I'm getting up multiple times a week.
And I got my dog here with the toy in the background, so
I can't hear it.
Okay, that's good. It's only this crickly one, so I can hear it. But
yeah. So I mean, so if you're trying to go up like 5 times a week or whatever, are you creating new stuff for each time you go up, or is it really just a different crowd, and that's why it's okay to use the same stuff?
Well, right now I have probably about over an hour of material. And when you're going up on open mics, most open mics here in Eugene, you're getting about 5 minutes of stage time, depending on, how many comics show up, how the mic is going. Sometimes they'll be lenient and they'll give you more time. So I'm usually either trying something new or reworking a joke, trying a new delivery, a new approach, or adding something to it. I'm always trying to switch up something to make sure that the joke is polished. Because my goal in the next year is to finally record a comedy special. I feel like I've been at this for 12 years and it's time for me to do that. So that's usually my goal every time I go up, is either trying something new or polishing something that I've already been doing.
That's cool. Yeah, so we gotta get you a headline, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you are sharing your journey, you're sharing your jokes, however you're portraying it to people, do you find it in yourself like a sigh of relief or soothing in a way that kind of let it out again of what you went through?
Yeah, I think it's soothing to find that when the laughter happens, it's because it's relatable. So it's soothing to me to know that there are other people that can relate. And I know before I became a comedian, one of the things that I was always envious of that I saw in other people and also comedians was being able to say like whatever on their mind and not really care what anyone thinks or care about anyone judging you. And so there's some material that I have that I probably wouldn't tell someone in a day-to-day conversation, but when I'm on stage and performing, I've talked about some pretty crazy and embarrassing stuff. And so, yeah, it is kind of a relief to get that out. I've even posted some clips of some things that are like kind of embarrassing to share. And people are like, oh, wow, that's like really bold. And that was hilarious and good for you. And it feels good to be able to talk about things that most people may not be really open to talking about.
And that's how they can connect with you even more.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, you're being more vulnerable, authentic, the big ones that you hear out there. So that's cool. I like to hear that. And I know somebody else that is a comedian too, but I've never heard his stuff or anything.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the first I've actually like sat down and had somebody that traveled through, their life and became, like stand-up comic, and no, this is awesome. So, I mean, what you want to see your name as a headliner, right? I mean, are you looking at, besides the comedy part, are you still looking at being a broker then?
Yeah. So I do have, dreams of being a headliner and, doing bigger tours and things like that. But I've been focusing on creating my own comedy club. So I currently run a pop-up comedy club in my hometown in Eugene, Oregon. And I've been kind of building up shows and events and open mics So when I find a location to open up a brick and mortar, I'll already kind of have built up the brand and the repertoire of the comedy club. And that's kind of just my goal because, I have a daughter right now that's starting high school and we've moved around quite a bit. And so I want to give her that stability to finish high school and get her roots before she decides where she wants to go. So kind of coming up with like my 5-year plan on what I want to do. And if I can travel a little bit during that time, I will, but I really just kind of focusing on building my brick and mortar.
It's cool. So in my head, a pop-up comedy club or whatever you just mentioned, right? 'Cause I just see like a van or something and you just start talking. So what's that like? What is that for you?
Yeah, so I pretty much find venues that are looking to have like entertainment. So whether it be like restaurants, bars, or other types of venues. Like we have a pop up at the Eugene Science Center, which is a museum. So every week we'll pop up somewhere and have an event. And so we have like 4 different places that we're at on a consistent basis. And then we have some other places that we pop up every once in a while, every couple months. So yeah, it's like we're bringing the comedy club to the people and to the venues that have patrons or guests that are seeking comedy.
So do you like advertise this in any way or?
Yeah, we use social media. We use all of our local event calendars and also Google.
Okay. All right. And what kind of like a crowd are you drawing in?
That's the best part about it is it's just such a wide range. I mean, even when I'm like setting up like, Facebook ads, it's asking me like what my target audience is. And it's always like 18 to like 65 plus, depending on the venue. If it's 21 and over, then we do 21, 65 plus. But we try to dial down maybe like the topics for that particular venue or which comedians are going to be there so we can kind of like pull in the audience that might relate to those comics better. But it's just such a wide range. I mean, there's so many people that love to laugh or need comedy. But it's it's interesting though, because there's also some people that like hate comedy and don't want to laugh and they're just like so serious at life. And it's like, what's wrong with you?
Yeah. Yeah, there's those people in the crowd where you say a joke and they just take it the wrong way or that's not right. You shouldn't be saying that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess there's a point in life where you do have to just kind of ease up a little bit and laugh because we're alive, it's life, things happen and just have to enjoy it.
Yeah.
Even if it's like the worst thing that you could think of that you experience in your life, you have to laugh a little bit. Yeah,
Yeah, you do.
yes. Yeah. Yeah. How would you suggest somebody like getting involved in becoming a comic?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like, so I started with improv classes. Improv is, and I'm glad that I started with improv, and improv is something I always go back to, like, especially when I feel like maybe I'm having a creative block. Um, improv is like, improv is like playing on the playground as a kid again, but with a bunch of adults that just want to be silly and goofy, and you're playing all these games, and you're just going off the top of your head. You're playing make believe, right? And there's some parameters or rules or guidelines that you're following for each game. So that's really fun because it pops up ideas. And sometimes after I go to improv class, maybe there was a scenario, something that we played out. I'm like, oh, that would be a funny joke, or I can write a joke out of that. So that's definitely like a great way to start. But there's so many different opportunities out there, no matter where you live, to take stand-up comedy classes where you actually learn how to write a joke, and it can be very formulaic. There are rules, but rules are also meant to be broken. But if you're like learning the rules and the structure to write a joke and how to do stand-up comedy and perform a 5-minute set, it's gonna set someone up for success to be able to deliver the material and get the laugh and the punches that you want as a comedian. And I think doing both stand-up comedy and improv definitely makes me a stronger comic. And I can notice a difference too when I see other comics out there, ones that do improv as well. They come off more like theater kids, and tend to be a little bit more theatrical and involve physical comedy as well.
Yeah, that's interesting. Do you with your program you got going on, are you bringing in like new people or people that are already doing it, for several years or whatever?
Yeah, I try to bring in a range of people. So I Obviously, doing this for 12 years, being in Los Angeles, being in Phoenix, and now back in my hometown in Eugene, I've met a lot of comics over the years, and a lot of the people that I kind of like started with have taken their careers in like really amazing places. So I'm able to bring in seasoned comics. Then I'm also able to bring in newer comics or people that are maybe 3 to 5 years in. I started teaching some stand-up comedy classes a few years ago. I think I started in like 2021, 2022. And so I'm able to work with new comics and some people that have maybe been doing comedy for a little while and are trying to just kind of like get new material. So it's great because I get to work with new people too and give them opportunities to perform as well. So yeah, it's pretty fun because I get a wide range of talent and levels of experience.
Do you see yourself traveling like around the country or something to do this?
Yeah, it's crazy is before I had my son who turns 2 soon. I was actually wanting to buy like a camping van, like a sprinter van or something like that. And I wanted to start going on tours in the summer with my daughter and just going like on road trips, and then had a baby. So, he ruined my plans, but that's still something that I want to do. Especially with real estate. It's so easy to work remotely. And when you have like a team of agents that you work with, it's pretty crazy. Like I'm licensed in Arizona and Oregon, and I live in Oregon full time. And I've helped people buy homes in Arizona while I'm in Oregon because I got a team of agents that can help me with showing homes and stuff like that. So it's pretty cool what you can do now with technology. So but yeah, I'm still planning on like doing comedy festivals. Comedy festivals kind of like my way of trying to get out. I haven't booked any this year yet, but I'm hoping soon. But it's just nice because you can kind of plan ahead. You apply to it, you know when it is, and once you get the notification that you're in, you take a quick trip out of town to go to that comedy festival for a weekend or whatever, and you meet a lot of people because there's comedians coming from all over, and you kind of just continue to build your comedy network, which is really cool.
That's pretty cool. And your son's too, so I'm sure he would enjoy the experience.
Yeah.
So, we could talk about that for a little bit, right? So you think it's a setback, and obviously as a child, it's great to have a kid.
I don't think it's a setback. I mean,
But it sounded like you kind of like hinting at that, right? So you're like,
yeah, I mean, like, it's a setback for my plan, like, but there's that saying, make plans and God laughs at you. It's like, okay, well, yeah, that was my plan, but maybe the divine plan or the destiny that I meant to follow, maybe that wasn't it. And so I try not to look at things at a setback. I mean, I think we all do, right? When things don't work out when we want it to, but then as time goes on and you see the bigger picture, you're like, everything worked out the way that it was supposed to. So am I a little bitter that I can't travel as much now? Yeah, a little bit. But I'm also really excited and really grateful for all the opportunities I do have right now that I'm working towards. So
that's right. That's a good way to look at it.
yeah.
So like how would somebody like reach out to you if they're interested in doing your pop-up comedy club or
Yeah.
anything that you have to offer to help somebody?
Yeah. So my website is lexiscomedyclub.com. That's LEXYS comedyclub.com. Our website has all of our events and shows and also classes. Right now we're doing all of our classes in person. We may eventually expand out to doing like online classes. I had done online classes during like COVID stuff, which is fun and it worked, but I don't know. I'm a real hands-on, like to be in person type type of gal. So but yeah, all of our shows and events are on there, and I'm actually working on a video right now. It's like a little tutorial, a quick like 90-second real tutorial to show comics how they can actually register on our website and join our talent roster. So if comics are like coming through the Pacific Northwest from out of town and they want to, work with us on a show, they can do that.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I ask everybody the same question. I don't know if you listen to anything or not, but what are 3 key things you've learned and used along your journey?
So I'm probably gonna resort to the if anyone has read them, um the 4 agreements, but I'm gonna pick 3.
All of it. Exactly where you're coming from. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm always trying to do my best, and I think it's important to realize that my best today is probably not what my best was yesterday, and it's probably not going to be what my best is tomorrow, because our circumstances are always changing, our mood is always changing. There's so many things and so many factors that affect us, but just to try to show up, be present, and be your best in this moment. The second thing that I've been really working on for the last, I would say 5 years, is learning how to like not take things personal. Always kind of like killing my ego a little bit when things don't go my way, or maybe someone doesn't treat me the way that I want them to treat me. Just recognizing that it's nothing personal, has nothing to do with me. It never does, right? And then the last thing is just practicing gratitude. Every day, practicing gratitude, being thankful for starting with the small things, especially like if I'm having a bad day. Like I've struggled with anxiety on and on, or not anxiety, but anxiety too, but depression on and off for years. And there are days when you wake up and it's just like hard to get it going, and you don't even know like where this feeling is coming from. And so when I'm having those really hard days, I just try to be really grateful for the little things, like feeling quenched from a glass of water, or being able to go outside and get a nice breeze, or just being able to laugh with my kids, just the small things, and trying to take that negativity and turn it into something positive.
That's awesome. Do you write them down? What you're grateful for?
I used to a lot before my son was born. I've had to learn how to just like mentally do it. I used to like journal every morning and every night. I do want to get back to that. But just taking a moment and expressing gratitude in the moment, it really helps as well.
Yeah. And, you mentioned the book. So, I mean, how did you come about that book, The Four Agreements?
Oh, I wish I could remember. I feel like someone probably recommended it to me right around 2019, when all the COVID stuff started happening during the lockdown. I started looking at all the, I used to like keep like a memo on my phone of all the books people have recommended to me, and I just started like whipping through them. Audiobooks and the physical books. I got really into audiobooks when I started doing real estate, because I was showing houses all the time. And I read that if you listen to an audiobook during just like your work commute, like if you had a regular 9 to 5, that you, within a year, that you could accumulate and absorb just as much information as someone getting a 4-year degree from a college.
Yeah.
So I thought that was really interesting. So I got really into audiobooks. But then when I started working more remotely, I still like to read. I like holding the book and smelling the pages and looking at my finger and turning the page. So, but audiobooks are nice when you're kind of like on the go and got a lot going on.
Yeah. And I do like holding the book, just like you said. I didn't do this yet, but I just heard this one where they buy the audiobook and they'll buy the book and they'll have that play while you're looking at it.
I wish that they came up with some sort of like package, like especially Amazon, right? Where it's like maybe it's like $5 more and you can get like the hardback or the paperback and the audio version instead of having to buy the book twice.
Right. Yeah. There might be something like with their Kindle or whatever. I don't know, but
Yeah.
yeah. But and that makes sense of looking at the words, reading it in a sense, and hearing it.
Yeah. The auditory and the visual, and then like the physical doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But to go back to the Four Agreements real quick, I want to say somebody suggested it to me too, and it's just been one of the ones like, you have to read this book, and if you don't read it, then there's just no reason for us to kind of get along in a way. Like, you have to be in, you know what I mean?
Like a prerequisite for like anyone that wants to do in your life.
If you're growing, if you're like, hey, I learned this, and they didn't read or want to change, then you'll have a conflict. I just see it. But yeah, I'm glad you shared that. It's, for me, in that part, it has been not taking things personally. That's been a huge change. And I don't know about you, but it gets easier and easier over time. So
yeah, it got easier over time, but then I was in an environment that was just not healthy. And so I felt like I took like 2 big steps backwards, and I had to kind of like get back on my healing journey and just remind myself like like I gotta get back to where I was, you know. But yeah, I've done that before, actually given people books, like love interest books, like, hey, read this book, let me know what you think. And then they never read it. And I should have took that as a sign that I should have stayed away.
Yeah. Right. I'm being honest with you. It's like one of those books I would say, here, you have to read this. And that way we're on the same page. Because it could all, you know, what I mean, that they're somewhere else, they're with other people, whatever, you know, and that's nothing bad against them, but that's just how I feel. Like you shifted, you're in this whole different new spectrum. You're with all these different people, maybe talking to a bunch of people, podcasting out, you know, who knows? I don't know everything else that you're doing, but you're growing, you're changing. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I'm glad you shared that book, and those are your 3 things that you learn along your journey, and you're still continuing to learn.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I appreciate you coming on. I enjoy
Yeah.
listening to everything about comedy and how you went through the whole journey there and how you can help others. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was a pleasure.
Yes, you're welcome.